Oh. Okay. Are you guys seeing my agent dashboard? Give me a nod if you're seeing my agent dashboard on transaction desk. Okay. All right, so let's get started. We're going to go through today the listing agreement. I'm going to start from the beginning here. We're going to list my house. We're going to create a transaction. I've already pulled my house up on the property appraiser site. All right, I've copied my property ID. I'm going to go back in here. I'm going to name it the name of my address. Template, residential listing, source, doesn't really matter what you put there, those three. Paste your tax ID. I use the wizard for listing agent. It's going to populate the information that we need. So, taking a little bit, here it goes. Okay, it's got the address, all the information that I need, the legal description, etc. List price, we'll make up a list price. Let's say it's $399. Okay. And then we're going to go, I skipped the rest of this stuff because I'm just going to put it in the listing agreement. So it's going to pull up the forms that we need. Okay. Exclusive right of sale, listing agreement, transaction broker. That's the first thing we're going to do. It is going to pull my name. It is going to pull our company. It is going to pull the address. It is going to pull the legal description. And the price that I inputted there, you can input it here. It doesn't really make any difference. So there's that. We're going to make the date. We'll say it's today's date. Okay, and let's go through the date thing. I'm going to make it a 6-month listing. Okay, so this is the date that the listing will actually begin. You can sign before this and start the listing, next week once I have time to get pictures and everything else. Okay, but what is here is what is the most important for the MLS. This is when the listing actually starts and when it actually ends. Does not have to be today's date. Okay, so I am going to personal property, including appliances. Everything else here has been filled in. This is something you're going to discuss with seller and write it here. Okay. This should also be on your MLS data entry sheet. You're going to put on there what's coming with the house and what's not. This is to protect you guys from the seller. Should the seller say later, I didn't say I was leaving the washer and dryer. That's your responsibility to get the buyer a washer and dryer. This is when you discuss that with them, and then it is disclosed on the MLS as well. That is your job to disclose on the MLS. So when the house is shown, they know that the washer and dryer are not coming, or whatever it is. Financing terms. If it's a rental property, it is or is not currently occupied by a tenant. If this is a residential sale, just put is not occupied by a tenant. If it's a rental property and it is occupied by a tenant, put is, and then put when the lease expires. Okay. Financing terms. Cash. I'll take cash, conventional, VA, FHA. Whatever you agree to do. Okay, we are going to display, so this is broker authority. We are going to display the property on the internet, except the street address. We are going to display the property on the internet with the street address. Do not click this one. Seller does not authorize, unless that's what you discuss with the seller. Seller does not authorize broker to display the property on the MLS. Of course, we're going to leave that blank most of the time. If not, they do not authorize you to display it on the MLS. You're going to have to get them the opt-out sheet from the MLS as well. Okay. Use a lockbox system to show and access the property. Of course, if that's what you're doing, that's great. If it's not, then don't. Whether you're using a combo lockbox or a lockbox from the board, whatever it is, if they're going to be gone and they're going to leave the lockbox but be gone for the showings or whatever it is, or if the house is vacant, use this if it's applicable. Withhold verbal offers. Withhold all offers once seller accepts a sales contract for the property. I like to withhold all offers once seller accepts a sales contract for the property. withhold verbal offers. You can do that or not. Doesn't matter to me. I usually leave that alone. And I do withhold all offers once seller accepts a sales contract for the property, because as you guys know, later offers come in higher, people are throwing in backup offers, et cetera. It can muddy the waters for the seller, and depending if the seller acts rationally or not, can be in their best interest or not be in their best interest. Seller does not authorize an automated estimate of the market value of the listing to be displayed in immediate conjunction with listing of this property. If your Zestimate or whatever you want to look at is low, I would do this. Okay, so you're going to find out what your Zestimate or whatever is before this. I would do this if it's low. If it's high or the right price, just leave it. Seller does not authorize third parties to write comments or reviews about the listing of the property. I never like third parties writing comments. They never write, "This is the best house I've ever seen. What a great value." If they're going to do that, they go ahead and buy the house. So they write, "Oh, we liked it until we saw the neighborhood. House is too small for the money. Backyard seems cramped. Whatever. Neighbors were, bad," or whatever. I always do not authorize third parties to write comments. Make all legally required disclosures, including the facts or material effect of the property's value, and are not readily observable to known buyers. The seller certifies and represents the seller knows of no such material facts other than what they've already said. None, right? Other than what they've already disclosed on the seller's thing. Seller will immediately inform broker of material facts that arise after signing this agreement, of course. All right, compensation. This is the most confusing thing to agents and particularly to sellers when they see these. If you have not had a question from a seller based on your compensation paragraphs, this one and the next one, 8 and 9, then you have not been doing this very long, because you certainly will. So let's do this at 6%, okay, of the total purchase price. Plus, if you guys want to put your $350 here, this is where you do it, okay? For sellers. For buyers, you have an affiliated broker disclosure. But for sellers, this is where you put your 6% and $350. Broker's fee, 60 days is a good one here. This is what we call a tail on the deal. If they fire you or whatever for any reason, and they start talking to people that you sold it, that you had shown the property to, that you brought to them during the time that you had it listed, they sell it to them within 60 days, they go under contract, then you still get paid. Okay, that way they can't start into negotiations with somebody and say, "Oh, let me just fire the realtor and we'll sign our own deal and not have to pay that much, and I can take less money, or you can pay less money." All right. Okay, so this is where it gets confusing for people. The 6% here is where you're going to do 3 or 2.5, whatever. If it's 5 or 6, whatever it is that you do, 3% here. And if you have not got the comment, received the comment or complaint from a seller that, what is that one for? If you have not received you do one there. If you have not received a comment from a seller of, you told me 6%, but I see 9%. If you get another, the 3% comes from the 6. I want you to read this carefully so you can explain it to them. Okay, will compensate broker as specified below for procuring a buyer who is ready, willing, and able to purchase the property or any interest in the property on the terms of this agreement or on any terms acceptable to seller. Seller will pay broker as follows: 6% of the total purchase price. Okay, cooperation with and compensation to other brokers. Notice to seller, the buyer's broker, even if compensated by seller or broker, may represent the interest of the buyer. Broker's office policy is to cooperate with all other brokers except when not in seller's best interest, and to offer compensation in the amount of 3%. So the seller is giving us permission to offer compensation in the amount of 3%. So, I mean, I know you guys know that the 3% comes from the 6%, but to be able to explain it to them is, you're allowing me to not just keep all 6%, you're allowing me to share that to attract buyers, okay? To attract other agents with buyers. So that's how that works. Let's go down to conditional termination, cancellation fee. You can put 0 here, you can put whatever. So I get a lot of questions on this. So you paid for pictures and you paid for this and that. At seller's request, broker may agree to conditionally terminate this agreement. If broker agrees to conditional termination, meaning the seller requested it, but the broker agrees to it. Seller must sign a withdrawal agreement, reimburse broker for all direct expenses incurred in marketing the property, and pay a cancellation fee of blank. So direct expenses are things like photos and other things that you spend on the property. If you get a fancy sign because they live in a neighborhood where you have to get a fancy sign, those are all direct things. You can charge them for that if you would like to. And then the cancellation fee goes on top of that. If you charge them $500, then so be it. It goes on top of that. Okay. Dispute resolution, have them initial here for arbitration, and additional terms. Guys, this is what I want to talk to you about as well. Be very careful what you're writing in additional terms. You are not attorneys. We are able to fill this out. Our qualification for filling out a listing agreement, although it is a legal document, our only qualification is that we are licensed real estate agents / realtors, right? So you are not to be writing. We can fill this out because it's approved by the Florida Association of Realtors and the Florida Bar, the FAR Bar. This agreement that we just come in and fill in the blanks, that is something that we are allowed to do. Additional terms, we have to be very, very careful with additional terms. Be careful writing here. If listing broker sells property, represents both parties, commission will only be 4%. Be very careful with things you write that, because we are doing this as the broker. Remember, the agent does nothing. The agent is an agent of the brokerage. The brokerage does the business. So if you write in here that the listing broker will take only 4%, if the listing broker represents both sides, you are saying that if another Florida Realty Investments agent comes to you with a client, that you're only going to take 4%. Now, most sellers are going to say, well, Bob is my listing agent and Susie represented the buyer, so I realize it's two different people and I've got to pay 6%. But you still have to go with them. And that's why we did this this is a transaction broker form. This is exclusive right of sales transaction broker. You still have to go back to them. Even if you've never met this other agent that's with the same brokerage before, you still have to go back to the seller and explain to them, if you used a single agent listing agreement, that you are transitioning to transaction brokerage. So what I'm getting at is, if you agree to that, you technically agreed that 4% is the total. And if you offered, if you're Bob, the listing agent, you offered on MLS 2.5% or 3% to Susie, Susie's going to want her 3%. And so now you're working for 1% if you put this in here. I don't like doing that at all, guys. I don't like dropping the commission at all. I think that's something you can do afterwards when you present an offer from someone and say, look, I know it's 6%, but since these people came to the open house, I would be representing them. I'll do it for 4.5 or whatever. If you want to do that, that's the time to do it. Do not do it on the listing agreement if you can help it. Okay. And if you do, there's language that you need to get correct on there, and be very careful. There's almost no way to do it without putting yourself in that situation that I just said. So if they go to an attorney about anything, have them review the contract and review the listing agreement. The attorney's going to say, hey, both of these agents are with the same brokerage. You don't owe them 6%. You only owe them 4%. Okay, just things to think about like that. That's why I don't like you guys writing too much stuff in there that's not pre-approved. All right, seller signature. I've had a lot of people ask questions. What if I have 5, 6, 7, 3 sellers and they don't all fit on here? Guys, you can just cram them into these lines. Don't worry about it. You can also do an additional page. You can write in here, see signature page attached, and do an additional page with them signing it off, okay? But they need to initial here as well. And of course, these 2, you can have 7 people initial all around the thing. Don't worry about it. Any changes you make on here after the original execution of it, if once you've signed it or they've signed it, whoever signed it first, and then there's changes to be made, everyone needs to initial, you and them. Okay. You will turn this form in. The broker will sign it later. You sign as broker sales associate. You can sign here, authorized sales associate or broker. You sign here. You upload it into paperless pipeline. The broker will sign as necessary. She does not sit around and sign 50 listing agreements every day. All right. So you guys will do that. All right. That is your quick summary of the listing agreement. I hope that is very helpful to you guys, and best of luck.
I have a question, Ryan, if you don't mind. On the listing agreement, how early can a listing agreement be signed by a seller? Is it a time frame or?
A listing agreement can be signed today to list their house almost any time in the future.
And ahead, like, because I have people that wanted to sign it like a month before, and I wasn't
Sure. A lot of people will say, "Look, I'm leaving town. I'm going to Europe, and I want to sell my house. I've got somebody working on it right now. It'll be ready for the market probably in 3 or 4 weeks. So let's go ahead and get this agreement signed and put it on the market when the work is done." Absolutely, can be done that way. Yes.
Okay. One last.
Yeah. Well, let me elaborate on that a little bit. You're going to need your MLS exclusion form anyway. That is something that I've read through their documents. It doesn't make sense, but you're going to need that anyway. Once the people have signed, you're supposed to have that MLS exclusion, even if the listing hasn't started yet, from my understanding. All right.
That is correct. That is correct, Ryan.
Thank you, Caroline. I love the glasses.
Can you post date it, or is that forward?
Yeah.
Like, can you date it for next week and they sign it today or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely,
Okay.
Tammy. And
So
that's done a lot. I don't want to do this today and not have pictures until next week. That rule that I just told you, I believe that is a rule, but it is a dumb rule, because the listing hasn't even started yet. I can't stand that rule. But
So we
because
wouldn't have to do an MLS sheet if we post, if it's going to go active.
Right, I would just make it part of your package. Just make that MLS exclusion part of your package and make it start on the day that your listing starts or whatever. We're going to keep it off the market until then. Just make it make it the 5th page of this, because it's ridiculous. Because Tammy, if you said, "Ryan, I need to list my house, run over here real quick and let me sign these papers with you." And I'll say, "Okay, Tammy, but I can't put your house on the market today. I don't have pictures. I want to get professional pictures done. I want to get everything done right. You and I need to fill out these forms and check on some of your utilities and do all that, right? Check on this and that." And I'm going to get over there and I'm going to say, "Well, today's Wednesday. Let's start listing on next Wednesday and get it fired up for the weekend. Get everybody excited about an open house on Saturday. Whatever our strategy is, right?" Yes, I can absolutely sign it today and date it for March 8th or whatever I want to do. Okay.
But I'm saying I meet with you today, but I date it for next March 8th.
Right. Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
You can date it. You can date it for December.
Okay.
Well, the reason for this is because I got one time I did that, and I was, talking to our agents, and I think I put something on Facebook. Somebody contacted me, "Hey, is this a pocket listing? Is it listed?" So that's why the exclusion form is important, because you can't market until you actually list the property for within 24 hours.
Right. So if I go to Tammy's house today and she says, "Let's put it on the market next Wednesday," I'm leaving town. Let's go ahead and get this signed up. And I frankly, I don't want to order pictures and do all that stuff until she signed a listing agreement anyway, right? Make sure she's going to sign it before I spend a couple $100. So we're going to do that, but I wouldn't talk about Tammy's house until, if I'm going to put it on next Wednesday, till Tuesday, right? I wouldn't say I have a pocket listing. I wouldn't do anything. I hate that term, by the way. I just don't say you have any of that stuff until you're ready 24 hours from going on. So yeah, I don't see, but you're supposed to get it signed, even though she and I talked about it today. I'm supposed to get her to sign MLS exclusion until next Wednesday. That she knows that the property, even though it's not listed. So that's why I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it anyway until it's listed. You guys understand that? I can't talk about it. Actually, if we set it for next Wednesday, I can't even talk about it until next Wednesday. I can hold off the MLS until Thursday, but I can't talk about it until Wednesday. I can't go on Tuesday night and start talking about her listing that doesn't start until Wednesday. Okay.
Right, Ryan, what about the 2 days for MLS?
I think it's 24 hours for MLS, isn't it?
Yeah, I think like 2 days.
Changes need to happen within 2 days.
Yeah, if you list it, once you have it signed, you have 2 days to put it in the MLS.
Okay, not once you have it signed, once the listing starts. That's why you need to get that, go ahead and get that form done. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, Idul. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It is, I can't stand that rule, but it's the rule.
I know.
But I didn't.
It's like the 211, that's Clear Corporation. That's the
Right, but just signing an agreement doesn't mean anything. That the only thing that really matters is the date that it starts and date that it ends. Right. So anyway, just get the MLS exclusion form signed. It's very easy to explain to clients. Look, this is saying I'm not going to put it onto the MLS until the listing starts next Wednesday. Okay. But no, you cannot talk about it. You cannot get on our FRI group. You can't do anything, talk about a listing until that date that it starts. I don't care if they signed it. It's the date on page 1 is the date I can start talking about it is March 8th or whatever date we decide on. Okay. Any other questions on that?
No.
Ryan, I have a question.
Yes, Sinan.
Okay, I'm doing a commercial listing and it's an entity, it's a group, and they have the lead person who makes, who does all the signage. So, but I'm talking to, it's a group of 4 people on the board, but one person is signing the listing and giving, it's a commercial property in Mount Dora, and I have to get the signature of the main person, or do I have to get all the 4 people signed for?
What kind of entity is it?
Okay.
So I know. What kind of entity?
Yes. Pardon?
What kind of entity is it? LLC?
Yeah, it's an LLC.
Well, there's a managing member. There's a managing member. That's all you need.
Okay, so the managing member has to sign, otherwise it's not valid, right?
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Now, Ryan, going back to the listing date that you had, right?
Mhm.
And you have, like you listed it today with a seller. You signed a contract on line 6, you put today's date. And you're gonna list it next week or, in the future. When you upload it to MLS, you have to change that date.
No. That's why I would put the date that I can actually get it on. I don't put today's date there. I did on this form right now.
Okay.
But I would put, like, if the example I gave of listing Tammy's house, I'm going to go to Tammy's house and I'm going to say, by the time I get photos and get everything done here, it's going to be next Wednesday, which is great time to hit the market. Wednesday, Thursday, we'll get that open house. We'll put our open house in for Saturday. We're going to have all of our offers in this market. We'll just take offers on weekend and we'll make a decision Sunday night and blah, 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 blah. Right. Don't hold me to that 2 years from now. But right now, that's what we would say. But I can put on there, I absolutely would put on there the date that I think I'm going to put it on the market.
On the market, right. Because once you upload it, that's the date will show up on MLS.
Right.
Okay.
But if I try to go in and put it in right now as incomplete, just waiting for that date, go ahead and get it done. It's not going to let me put the date of March 8th. It's going to make me put today's date.
Today's date, right.
Which you can go back later and change.
Right.
I've entered
Okay,
listings before and left the date blank, just so I have all the work done. And then the day you're going to list it, you can go fill the date in.
Right.
It'll save it, and it doesn't count down numbers or anything.
Right. Yeah.
Brian, I have another question in regards of if there are tenants on the property. I have one right now that the tenants are there, but the seller stated that he doesn't have copies of the lease and supposedly expire in October, right? So I wasn't able to go inside the property, and I missed the first page of your listing agreement thing right now. So on the personal property, they include appliances. I only wrote, because I don't know the condition of the appliances or anything. I wrote, if the appliances require update or repair, sellers will make repairs or replace. Is that okay, or should I modify that?
That's perfectly fine.
Okay, and
That's an if. That's an if then, that's fine.
Right, and it's in terms of the tenants, they look like they're working, they answer my calls and everything. But is there anything I need to have? Should I have that lease, or I mean, as long as they're working, it should be fine? Or what's your recommendation?
What do you mean they're working? They're paying their rent?
No, I mean that they're responding to me. They're trying to cooperate to schedule the viewings. They don't seem to be, like not letting me do this.
Are you thinking this is going to be bought as by an owner occupant who's going to live in this house?
No, the tenants are there. The tenants.
No, I understand. But are you trying to sell it to another investor, or are you trying to sell it to an owner occupant?
Oh, well, no, whoever it comes. I just put it on the market today. I was just concerned at not being able to have the lease to really see that the lease expired or not, because the seller is telling me that they don't have a copy of it. So
Yes. Yeah. The answer is yes, you have problems. So you've got to come up with a lease or get rid of these tenants or something. You've got issues there. Nobody can buy it. Nobody's going to buy it as an owner occupant if I can't get rid of those tenants who are not even on lease.
No, the tenants are promising to leave at the end of the month. I mean, they do have the 30 days, so I'm just.
Okay.
So potentially.
So they've agreed to leave. Okay.
Right.
Well, you're going to want to sell it to an owner occupant then probably, because you get more money for it. So that's what I would focus on that. I'm not sure. You don't need a copy of the lease if they're leaving. Who cares?
Okay. I guess that's the answer to my question. Thank you.
No, if they're not there, no, I don't care about their lease. What was on it doesn't matter.
Perfect. Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions on the listing agreement or any of those things? Guys, be very careful. A lot of you guys write in the stuff about the listing broker. If the listing agent gets both sides, blah, 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 you're not doing it as a listing agent. You're doing it as a brokerage. So you can be very clear about the listing agent themselves getting both sides or whatever, but it gets pretty complicated and I think it's something that's better to bring up later if you don't need it to secure the listing, which you probably don't. Sometimes you might get a seller who says, well, so-and-so is doing it for 5% and 3% if they get both sides. Then in that case, you might have to do something there. But if they don't mention that, I would not do that. I would throw that in as a bonus if you want to do it later on and say, look, we've got two offers here. This one's a little better and this one, maybe they're identical, but I can cut you a little break on the commission on this one because I'd be representing both sides. You know what I mean? So,
Brian, I have a question.
Yes, Sean.
I signed that listing. This is great information. I signed the commercial listing agreement yesterday for a gasoline station under construction. The seller prefers to wait to put it on MLS maybe another 30 days before the asphalt and the concrete are finished. I'm not sure why, but he wants to get contractors finished before putting it out there. So on my date, just a confirmation, should I go back and initial the start date or just add that exclusion form?
Do you use the exclusion form? You need it right away. Have him sign. If he just signed it yesterday, you need him to sign it today. Go get it to him. And he's perfectly, I mean,
Okay.
Because you're not going to get pushback from these people. You're not doing anything crazy. You're not holding it off MLS so you can make extra money. These are your clients telling you that they want to keep it off MLS, or in the case we talked about earlier, it's the rules. Say, look, if I can't list it until next Wednesday, then this is the form that goes with it. You don't even have to explain it. Just this is the form that goes with it.
Okay.
This is the date. I know you signed today, but this is the date it's going on the market. So yeah, Sean, and he'll appreciate that because it shows you're listening to him. Right? So good.
Thank you.
And you can always amend that form later or get a new one if, he's dealing with contractors, it's going to be delayed. So you can always amend that form later or get a new one. All right.
Thanks.
Brian, I have a question. I missed the beginning. What did you say about pocket listing? We cannot talk about it?
I didn't say you can't do anything. I said, I just don't like it.
I missed it. That's why I'm asking a question. What is it about?
No, I know. Well, I didn't say anything about it until what you heard. I just don't like them. That's all. That's the only thing I said about them. It was kind of it wasn't even part of the presentation. I just threw that in there. That was a bonus.
Okay.
In fact, we'll edit that out of the part that goes to when we sell this DVD. Edit that out. Anybody else? Any questions or anything? I just don't. I don't like it. It reeks of unprofessionalism and other stuff. Just calling it that. I don't mind that you guys have them or know about them or whatever. It's just not. It's not as clean as I'd like. That's just me.
Whether we like it or not, it's happening. Other people are doing it. So I'm just asking a question because I thought I missed out on something.
I understand. Lots of things I don't like in the world.
I know. But they're
Hey,
happening.
Ryan.
They're still happening. Yes, Malvis.
I have a question on the listing agreement, page 2, what you mentioned about page 2, line 80. When you mentioned about seller does not authorize an automatic estimate of the market value of the listing or a hyperlink to such estimate to be displayed in immediate conjunction with the listing of this property. To display where and how can you on that?
Let's just use the boogeyman here, Zillow, for example. And when they go on Zillow, they're going to see that Malvis has priced this house at $399, but Zillow says it's worth $367. Do I want that Zestimate on there when you know people believe that garbage? Right? I don't
No.
want that on there. So there's a place on the realtor page when you're putting the listing in to not allow third party comments and to not allow automated value. What are they? Automated valuations or whatever they are.
Okay, so that box 80, if I click on it, it means that no estimates will come up on Zillow.
Yeah, Malvis, you know what the best thing to do is to, if you guys are going to do this right, go on Zillow, because your client probably already did anyway, right? But go on Zillow and see what their estimate is. And then if it says 415 and I'm only listing it for 419, fine. I'll leave it up there. People know right now they got to pay more than estimates. But if or more than whatever the value that somebody gives something. But if it's $20,000 below or something like that, I wouldn't. If it's above, then of course I'd let it go.
Okay,
right?
thank you. I have other questions, but not related to listing agreements.
Okay, well, if you'll hold those for a little bit and then we'll get to them.
Ryan.
I have a question, Ryan.
Yes, let's do Bonnie first and then Abdul.
Okay, thank you. So just to add to that Zillow thing, just a comment, I've seen before, I've listed a property, the Zestimate was high, and then after I listed it, it was lower than the listing price. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't know if anybody else has seen that. But my question is back to the additional terms where you said if the listing agent brings the buyer, what type of verbiage would be safe?
That's a great question. I'll have to think about it. I don't like putting it there at all.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to differentiate. You start getting so far into it to differentiate Bonnie from Martha, both with FRI, who don't even know each other, selling this property, and you're limiting us to 4% if you say, if listing broker gets both sides. Then,
so what if you just say, if Bonnie Black brings the buyer?
If Bonnie Black represents the buyer, finds the buyer, yes, you can do that.
That would be safer
Right.
than saying the listing agent?
Yes. And the rest of you, just to clarify before I get this question, the rest of you use your own name, not Bonnie Black. Okay. All right. And yes, well, okay. Yes, I don't know what to say about the evaluations lowering after it's listed. I'm sure it happens. I haven't seen it. I would think in this market, they'd be more likely to go up once people start listing and then more closings happen. I know you guys have had, it actually happened on the house that I'm in. I was afraid it wouldn't appraise. And we waited until another unit in this subdivision closed and then it appraised. And I'm sure it wasn't going to appraise before that. So anyway, that's been happening. It's been going up and up, but I'm sure, Bonnie, it has gone down in the past and maybe even this week. I don't know. It's just based on whatever their algorithms are and stuff. So yes, but Idul, go ahead.
Yeah. Line 144 cancellation. Is it okay because I do it, include my expenses and everything and just give them one price for cancellation?
Well, it says and pay a cancellation fee. Idul,
Yeah.
so they owe you for your pictures and your sign and everything plus $500. Okay, or whatever you put in there. Okay, that's what it says on here. It says and pay a cancellation fee. I want to go back real quick, Bonnie, to the thing that you did. If you want to change it later, you should be able to go back and change that on the realtor page. Go back and edit your listing. Back to you, Idul. Yes, it says they're going to pay for your marketing and direct expenses incurred in marketing the property and pay a cancellation fee of X amount. So they would owe you if you spent $299 on pictures and $500 there, they'd owe you $799. Okay. I wouldn't get into gas and all that stuff like some of you guys probably want to, but maybe if gas stays up. Yes, next person. Next question.